They called her Hannah Whitmore, the woman who had it all: a beautiful home in Surrey, a loving husband, and a life most only dream of. But behind every smile she gave the world, there was a silence that lived inside her chest, faint, fragile, and growing weaker with each passing day. Her husband, Matthew, built empires. Her daughter, Naomi, built stories. Yet the one thing Hannah couldn't build was time, because money can buy comfort, but it cannot buy a heartbeat that's fading. This is the story of the billionaire's wife, who died of a silent heart. A tale of love, distance, and the disease that took everything she never said aloud. Sometimes, the heart breaks quietly, long before it ever stops. Hannah Whitmore had everything people dreamt of: wealth, grace, and the kind of beauty that age only softened into elegance. She lived in the heart of Surrey, in a vast country estate wrapped in silence and trimmed hedges. Her husband, Matthew Whitmore, was a billionaire businessman known for his charm and philanthropy. To the world, they were perfection itself, a golden couple. But behind the glowing photographs and polite smiles, there was a slow, unseen battle brewing within Hannah's chest. At 60, Hannah's life looked complete. She had her daughter, Naomi, a bright journalist who lived in London, and a husband who provided everything she could ever want except time. Matthew was always away, flying across continents, building empires, and attending endless meetings. The house, once filled with laughter, had grown still, echoing only the sound of her soft footsteps and the ticking of the old grandfather clock. For months, Hannah had felt a heaviness she couldn't quite explain, a tightness in her chest, moments when her breath seemed shorter than usual, and a fatigue that clung to her no matter how much she rested. She brushed it aside, calling it just age, whenever Naomi urged her to see a doctor. "I'm fine, darling," she would say, forcing a smile. "Just a little tired." But she wasn't fine. One evening, while preparing tea, she felt it again, a dull ache radiating through her chest, crawling up her neck and into her jaw. The pain came like a wave, gentle at first, then heavy and suffocating. She steadied herself on the counter, her porcelain teacup shattering on the floor. The sound startled her, and for a moment she thought it was her heart itself breaking. When Matthew returned home that night, he found her sitting in the conservatory, staring out at the rain. "You're pale," he said, his voice tinged with concern. "Are you unwell?" She hesitated. "It's nothing, Matthew. I just need some rest." He nodded, distracted, already glancing at his phone. That night, as she lay beside him, Hannah stared at the ceiling, her thoughts circling the same question: when did love become so distant? She remembered the early years, the laughter, the candlelit dinners, the shared dreams. Now, their conversations were brief, polite exchanges about schedules and events. The silence between them had grown heavier than words. In the morning, she sat by the window with her journal. The pain had faded, but the fear lingered. She wrote a single line before closing the book. "The heart doesn't break in one moment, it cracks slowly, until it forgets how to beat." The Crasta dis 2 of Light 10. When Naomi visited later that week, she noticed her mother's trembling hands. "Mom, please, go to the doctor, just for me." Hannah finally agreed. She smiled softly. "All right, my darling, I'll make an appointment." But deep down, she knew it wasn't just about her health anymore. It was about everything she had ignored, everything she had lost, while pretending to be fine. Little did she know, that promise would be the beginning of a truth that would shatter all three of their lives. The morning was unusually still. A pale mist curled over the garden, wrapping the roses in a soft shroud. Hannah sat by the window, waiting for Matthew. He had promised to drive her to her doctor's appointment, his first free morning in months. But the clock ticked past 10, and her heart sank as she heard the faint hum of his car leaving the drive instead. A quick meeting had come up. Again. She smiled faintly, though no one saw it. She was used to it, now used to waiting. to being the afterthought in a life filled with meetings, deals, and deadlines. Still, she told herself not to be angry. Love, she thought, was about understanding. Naomi arrived an hour later, cheerful but worried. "Mom, you're shaking," she said, taking her mother's hands gently. "You look so pale." "I'm just tired, love," Hannah whispered, though her chest felt like it was being quietly squeezed from the inside. At the clinic, the doctor spoke softly but firmly after running a few tests. "Mrs. Whitmore, your symptoms suggest ischemic heart disease. It means the blood flow to your heart is reduced. You've likely had several small episodes of angina already. You must rest, reduce stress, and avoid emotional strain." Hannah nodded slowly. "And if I don't?" she asked, almost afraid of the answer. "Then your heart may not keep up," the doctor said gently. "You mustn't ignore it any longer." She left the clinic feeling small, fragile, and strangely invisible. Outside, the rain began again, light but cold. Naomi squeezed her arm. "We'll get through this, Mum. I'll stay with you. Please, don't hide this from Dad." But Hannah did. When Matthew came home that night, she pretended everything was fine. She cooked his favorite meal, smiled when he told her about his deals, and laughed when he complimented her dress. It was easier that way, easier than watching his face tighten with guilt. Yet deep inside, her heart was tired of pretending. The next morning, Matthew found her in the garden, tending to her roses. She looked peaceful, her hair catching the early sunlight. He stood at the doorway, suddenly noticing how small she seemed among the flowers. "You shouldn't be out here in the cold," he called gently. She turned to him and smiled, the kind of smile she hadn't worn in years. "It's all right, Matthew. I just wanted to feel the morning one more time." He frowned, not understanding. "One more time?" But before he could reach her, she pressed a hand to her chest, her face paling. The world seemed to slow, the rustle of the wind, the distant call of a bird, and then silence. Matthew caught her as she fell, her head resting against his shoulder. "Hannah, stay with me, please." His voice cracked, desperate, terrified. But she didn't hear him. Her eyes, still open, seemed to hold a strange calm. The pain was gone. The whispers had stopped. Later that evening, Naomi sat beside her father, her eyes red but steady. "She tried to tell us, Dad. She really did." Matthew buried his face in his hands, tears falling for the woman he had loved too late, the heart he had ignored until it stopped beating for him. And in that vast, silent house in Surrey, the ticking clock in the hallway carried on steady, soft, and painfully alive, for the heart that no longer was. In the end, Hannah didn't need riches. She only needed time. One more morning in her garden, one more moment of laughter with those she loved. Her story reminds us that even the strongest hearts can grow weary in silence. So listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart, because sometimes the people who seem the strongest are the ones whose hearts are whispering for help. This was The Billionaire's Wife Who Died of a Silent Heart. And may your heart always find peace before it grows silent. Thank you for listening. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And let us know where you are watching from in the comments section. Stay safe.